Hey everybody, welcome back to Ben Likes Metal, and today we're going to be talking about In Flames. They're one of my personal favorite bands, and I don't really think they have a bad album. They definitely have lesser albums, but we'll get into that. And today we're going to be ranking them via my least favorite to my most favorite. So sit down, grab a snack, grab a drink, and enjoy this video. Alright, so coming in last place for me is going to be the album Siren Charms. I don't necessarily hate it. I just think that In Flames has done better. And this is one of those albums where I feel like they kind of were just lacking a little bit of that creative spark, that creative energy that made the previous In Flames records good and great and, memorable. This one maybe has a couple memorable hooks. Like I remember one song, Rusted Nail, off of it that I enjoyed, and then I thought the song Monsters in the Ballroom was just okay, but those are like the only two I really remember. We can go through the track listing here. Everything's Gone. That was kind of a decent track as well. I think Anders', voice sounds okay on it. But I mean, at the end of the day, the instrumentation, the vocal performance, the overall mix itself, it's nothing to write home about. It's very just kind of a stale, boring album, with a couple okay tracks here and there. So yeah, definitely last place going to Siren Charms. Next, we're gonna go with the album that followed, Battles.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Now, Battles was kind of disappointing to me, because when I got into In Flames, I found them relatively later, and this was the album that I went for when I discovered them. I was kind of taken aback because I heard a lot of people telling me that they love In Flames, and they're a great band, and the great instrumentation, great vocals, really cool riffs, everything. And I get to this album, which is the one I started out with, unfortunately, and none of that's there. It to me just feels like an alternative rock album, alternative metal album, with some riffs that you can consider metal thrown in there. But I mean, like, overall the vocal performance is just a hard rock performance. And the guitar work is, again, nothing to write home about. There are a couple more memorable songs on here than there are on the previous albums, like Siren Charms. And because of those songs, that's why it's bumped up a bit. But I mean, I do like the one song, Before I Fall. I thought that song was kind of good. And then like Through My Eyes, Battles, like Sand isn't bad. The End isn't bad, but like none of these songs are like really great. It's just, they just kind of feel like songs. And following that, probably won't be any surprises, I The Mask. I The Mask to me was an album that I was kind of excited for, because I came off of listening to Battles, and then I went back and listened to a bunch of their other discography, and we'll get to that in a bit. But as far as modern output goes, they really haven't been hitting the nail on the head with it. It's been kind of just testing, experimenting. And I get, when you're a band and you've been around for that long, you may want to experiment. It's completely normal and completely natural, and I'm all for experimentation within bands. But it just would have to make sense. And this one, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. There's like children's choir voices in there on one of the songs, and the cymbals, like, they just sound super washy. They don't sound bright. They don't really kind of cut through. They just kind of like fizzle out. Anders' vocals performance, it's the same thing he's kind of been doing on the other two that I just talked about. Nothing, again, super crazy. But I will say there is one song on here that I do really enjoy, and that song is I like I Am Above in Voices. I mean, it's very just kind of like generic, almost metalcore.
It's pretty straightforward. You know, the guitar shit, it's, you know, it's a little stock.
They could just do a lot better, and thankfully they did after this, but we'll get to that in a bit. Up next, we have Sounds of Purpose, and this album, to me, kind of marks that point where it all just kind of slowly declines. This album isn't, you know, necessarily awful. I just don't vibe with it like other people do. I think some of the songs are kind of bloated. I'm just not a fan of the production on this one, and the songs are like almost there, but they're just only kind of half there. So I'll be like, you know, I'll be listening to it and there'll be a song and I'll just be, you know, nodding along, you know, and then I'll do a little switch up, and then that switch up is the chorus, and I just don't like the chorus. So that's kind of like the issue I've run into with this album. There is like some really solid instrumentation all around. It's just that the songs themselves just kind of fall short, especially coming off of Come Clarity. But Sense of Purpose, overall, it's not a bad album. It's I just don't vibe with it as much as other people do. Now, up next we have Foregone, the latest release by them. I enjoyed this. I was excited for this when it came out. I heard, you know, the first single, I believe, was Meet Your Maker, and that was a pretty solid single. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then once the album came out, I went out and I bought it and gave it a couple listens, and it was decent. It was a really solid album. It felt like a really, like, almost a true return to form, which is something that when bands say they do, they don't really mean it. Only other example I could think of in like modernish times that has done that is Whitechapel with their latest release of Hymns and Dissonance, where they actually went back to the deathcore sound. But with this one, they kind of went back to that old school melodic death metal sound. There are like some really beautiful acoustic passages in here. You have excellent guitar work again. I felt like that was something that was missing. Like the solos were just not really there. Now they're kind of there now that they have Chris Broderick in the fold. And granted, he didn't, you know, go off like he has in like other projects, but it was still a super fun listen. And I really did enjoy it. And I think there's some really solid songs in here, like Meet Your Maker. That's a really good one. State of Slow Decay, the other single that they dropped, that one was pretty solid. And then The Great Deceiver, I enjoyed that one. And then like even the acoustic passages were pretty neat. And it was nice to kind of hear that again in Flames record. A lot less heavy on the synths. Now, we're getting to some other ones now. We're about halfway through the discography, and we have Sounds of Playground Fading. This album is a solid album. I do enjoy songs from it. I enjoy listening to it as a whole. I think from here on out is where I would start really recommending these albums. The Sound of Playground Fading was one that when I was going back, once I first discovered them, that was a newer album that I feel really hit. Like, this is like kind of what Alias was trying to do, and then they kind of just really nailed it with this one. I mean, there's super catchy songs, super memorable songs. I mean, the whole album is just a really solid listen. You can still get those In Flames acoustic passages that they're known for. And it's just, my one complaint with it is it's kind of bloated. It's a little bloated. I won't lie, there are some tracks that don't need to be on here, like Ropes and The Attic. I really don't. A New Dawn is another one that doesn't really need to be on here. There's some slower stuff on here, but the songs Sounds of Playground Fading, Deliver Us, All For Me, even though it's a slower one, it's a really good one. Where Dead Ships Dwell, that's just a banger. Darker Times is a solid track, and then like even the closing track, Liberation's a pretty interesting, a little bit different of a track from them, but it works. I think it works really well in context with this whole album. So yeah, that's where I'm going to put Sounds of Playground Fading. Up next, we have Lunar Strain. It's a solid debut. I'm going to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of it.
My God, bro.
I understand some people absolutely love this album. I'm one of those that it's just like, yeah, it's an okay debut. I felt like they kind of had a general idea of what they wanted to do as a band, and they cooked up some really good songs and threw them on here. But I will say I am not the biggest fan of some of the bigger songs on here. I think tracks like Behind Space, that's a song that they've just redone and put on just about every album. And it's not necessary. I don't think the song is that good. But then again, you know, I didn't write it. I'm not a member of In Flames. But I feel like that song has just been constantly shoved down our throats through the past couple albums. And as far as the rest of the album goes, there's a lot of the samey sounding stuff on here. But there's one track in here that does not get enough love and attention that it should, and that is Upon an Oaken Throne. That song rips, my friends. If you haven't heard that one, just listen to that single song off this album, and you'll be satisfied. I mean, that song's really good. But I mean, there's other tracks on here like Lunar Strain, you know, isn't too bad. That's a pretty solid track. I want to make it clear, I don't hate Behind Space. I think it's an alright song. I just don't think it deserved a fresh coat of paint every 2 years. That's my annoyance with it. But like, there's some other cool stuff on here, like the song In Flames. It's kind of cool. Clad in Shadows, that's a pretty popular track. That one's pretty solid as well. But like, again, there's just a lot of, it's really folky. There's a lot of folk elements in it, and not saying that I dislike folk elements. I do like them. But when it's 3 songs in a row, I tend to kind of, clock out a little bit. I like it. I just wish there was a little bit more trimming of the fat. Next, we're gonna go Reroute to Remain. From here on out, this is where they all kind of just butt heads a little bit. I really do enjoy this record. I think it is a very solid album. I know it gets its criticisms, but I am a huge fan of early 2000s In Flames. I love it when they kind of went that industrial route, a little bit new metal here and there. And I want to say that Anders' vocals is what Jonathan Davis should be. His vocals are just amazing. I love the way he does that style. And it's funny because I'm not the biggest Korn fan, and I'm not a big fan of Jonathan Davis. And I know you could compare their vocals pretty easily because they do like that vocal fry, kind of talking, singing. But the way Anders presents it throughout these tracks, throughout these songs, it's just awesome. And I love it. It's so hooky. There's a lot of earworm melodies in here. I will say though, the one thing kind of holding this album back a little bit is it is really bloated. There are a lot of songs. I think there are 13, like it's like Reroute to Remain, 14 songs on this thing. And I mean, thankfully they're all like 3.5 minutes. But it's a little much. And then when you get that many and they're all around the same time and they all kind of sound the same, you kind of run into the situation of what song's what. But the ones that are really good, we got Reroute to Remain, System, Trigger, Cloud Connected, and then on the second half, there's a song called Dark Signs, Metaphor, Minus. Those songs are pretty solid as well. But yeah, so that is where Reroute to Remain is going to sit. Up next is one of my personal favorites, and it's a lot of people kind of shit on it, and it really makes me sad to see. Soundtrack to Your Escape.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I absolutely love this record. So I said earlier that Battles was the first album I listened to. And that's true. The first In Flames song I had ever heard was Dead Alone. And that is my all-time favorite In Flames song. I just love that track so much. It came on my Spotify one day while I was mowing the lawn, back 2016, 2015. And I was like, oh, this song's pretty solid. I like this one. And it kind of just fell on my radar a little bit until there was hype around Battles, and so I listened to Battles, and that's why I was really disappointed with it, and I didn't understand it. I should have gone and listened to this album all the way through when I had heard that song, but I didn't, being a stupid kid. And I was missing out on some great stuff. This album is just a super solid album. I don't understand the hate it gets. I mean, actually, I can understand some of the criticisms, but it's heavy. It's arguably got some of the heaviest things they've done, and sonically, I love the industrial feel to it. I really can't, stress that enough. I just love that sound, and this album just kind of nailed it. It's an amazing record. Some days I will say this one is my favorite, but I can't do that knowing that some other albums from them exist. But yeah, this is where Soundtrack to Your Escape sits. Up next, we're gonna do Come Clarity. Now, Come Clarity is kind of like their pinnacle of that mid-2000s era. They kind of really nailed it with this one, more so than the other two. Now, this song does not have a single weak track, and from here on out, all the albums I'm talking about do not have a single weak track, and it just comes down to my personal taste and personal preference. So, as far as the mid-2000s stuff goes, I genuinely think this might be their best work. Again, I go back and forth between this and Soundtrack a lot. But I think this one just kind of beats it out a little bit. It's a super solid album. The guitar work is awesome. There's a lot of more intricacies going on than there are in the later stuff. The vocals are just perfect. Anders is doing everything right where he needs to be. I love some of the guest vocals too that they bring in, and it's not like by anybody big, but like the female vocals. I think that works really well with the songs that they do that on, and they do it on this album, and it's just absolutely amazing. Just melodies and hooks everywhere. Up next, now we're reaching the top 4. We got Horacle. If you say everything I said about the last one, just put it here, but make the instrumentals not as industrial and more classic, melodic death metal, and you got yourself another perfect record. Everything is where it needs to be. The mix is perfect. The songwriting is excellent. They really focused on song catchiness, and I really appreciate that with this one, because every single song is catchy. One of my favorite songs is episode 666. That song is awesome. And then Worlds Within the Margin, that's super cool. Morphing into Primal is a sick track. I mean, Jotun, Food for the Gods, Gyroscope, Dialogue with the Stars, even though it's like a little acoustic-y thing, it's still super sick. And then you got The Hive. The Hive is awesome. And then Everything Counts. That song is just a banger. And, you end on the track Horacle. And it's just a phenomenal album, start to finish. So this is taking the number 4 spot for me, without a doubt. It might go up even more, depending on the day. But yeah, Horacle at number 4. Number 3, we got Colony. Colony is, again, another one that just followed up Horacle, and they just followed it up with a masterpiece. I think this album has also some of their catchiest songs, being Ordinary Story. I mean, a lot of people know that one. But even with the deeper tracks like Coerced Coexistence, that song fucking rips. Now, it's a shame that they don't write like this anymore, but I'm praying that on their next album they do. But I love the keyboards on here too. Like I think their implementation of keys and everything are just amazing, and they're one of the best to do it. I would argue that them and Soilwork kind of do the keyboard thing the best. Maybe with Children of Bodom as well. Obviously Children of Bodom as well, can't forget them. But yeah, I mean, this album is just masterpiece start to finish. Cannot stress it enough. If you haven't listened to Colony, go listen to it right now. Listen to Embody the Invisible and Ordinary Story, and then you'll just be blown away. Chorus Coexistence is also a banger. This version does have the bonus track, Man Made God, which absolutely rips. So if you find a copy like this out there, pick it up, because that bonus track is worth it. Number 2, we have Clayman. Clayman is, what can I say, a perfect album. I don't think there's a single weak track. I love everything that they do about it. The production is great. Andrew's vocals are great. The guitar work is great. The drumming is great. I mean, every single song on here is a banger. You can't skip a single one, in my opinion. It's a front to back, have to listen every time. And if I'm listening, you know, to a playlist, or I hit my whole library on shuffle or whatever, and I hear a song from this album come on, I stop what I'm doing, I go and put this album on and listen to it, because I just have to. It's like you hear one song and you're like, I gotta hear it all now. Clayman is just one of those records for me personally. I really love it. I genuinely don't think there's a bad song in here. I mean, I could go off and name, you know, every single track, but I'll just give you a couple of my favorites. I mean, Bullet Ride, that song's just awesome. Clayman, the song itself, that melody is super, super sick. Brush the Dust Away, Swim, and I know I'm picking like some later track stuff, but like those are the ones that don't get played enough and are super, super sick. It's just an amazing record start to finish. And I got the kind of like the cool CD cover version where it's like kind of lenticular. He's kind of moving. But yeah, In Flames, Clayman coming in at 2nd place, which means number 1 has to be The Jester Race, and that's correct. This album, I just my favorite In Flames record. The other ones kind of flip around, but I think this one might take the cake altogether. I listen to this any day of the week, any time of the year. You know, it's just a phenomenal album from start to finish, and I don't think that it gets enough love as it should. Everyone really loves Clayman, you know, everyone really loves Come Clarity, or Colony, but this to me is my favorite. The acoustic work is the best. The guitar work is the most intricate, I would say. They were kind of firing on all cylinders right here. I mean, Andrew's voice sounds absolutely vicious. It's probably the best his like false chord and like fry vocals have sounded. And I just, yeah, that's all I really got to say about this one. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. Standout tracks is going to be the whole damn album. But I mean, this version has the Black Ash Inheritance EP, which also I've been discluding live albums and EPs because, you know, I'm only talking about the full lengths here. But if you got in this version, it's worth it. You do get Behind Space live though, so if you're like me and you don't like that song, just end it on track 13. But nonetheless, we got Moonshield, such a sick opening track. I also really like the Jester's Dance, which is like a really cool instrumental right after, which is kind of like a ballsy move to do. You have an opening track that already has a little bit of an instrumental intro, and then you have an instrumental second track, but it works, man. Artifacts of the Black Rain, super sick. Lord Hypnos, Dead Eternity, December Flower, Dead God in Me, that song is awesome. And then on the Black Ash Inheritance, you have Goliath's Disarmed Their Davids, that song rips. But yeah, this is gonna take the number 1 spot, and this will conclude my ranking for In Flames. Tell me what you guys think in the comments, and leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Also, let me know what bands I should do next. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.